City are still alive here. Balotelli, Aguero! Special beyond special.
Best player in the Premier League.
Captain Marvel. Drogba! Rooney! Oh, wonderful! That is one Derby diamond.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's match day.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Clash of Clubs. This is episode 8. It should be our last pre-recorded episode before I'm back from Europe. In the spirit of finishing... I could just stay there, honestly. I don't want to come back. I guess in the spirit of finishing off our lists, we started with center backs in like episode 2. I can't even remember. And then we moved into fullbacks, 6s and 8s. Wingers, 10s, and now we will finish off with our strikers. Yeah. So I guess we should just jump into it, huh?
Yeah. Number 10?
Yeah, number 10.
Rasmus Højlund. I think he's a very young striker, obviously. Not a finished product, and a big thing with him, did not get much service. I think with what we saw in terms of his shot conversion, there's clearly potential in him. And if United can just get back to scoring goals, I'm sure he'll play a part in that. I know he was good in the group stage in the Champions League too, had some goals there. So I think there's lots of room for improvement for him. But yeah, he's definitely got the potential for it. So I got him at 10 for now.
That's a fair assessment. I'll give my 10. I'm gonna give an honorable mention to Chris Wood. I have him right on the 10 borderline, and there's a reason that he's not in my 10. And if there was a player that I struggled with, he'd be in my 10. 15 goals in any Premier League season is incredible, and he's proper crap. So to do 15 goals and be shit is really impressive, and so that deserves a nod in its own. But my number 10 is Wissa from Knots. Just kind of
Wood was an honorable mention. I see.
Yes, Wood was my honorable mention.
Yeah.
So Wissa 10. Yeah, he does the job for them, and like picking up the slack for Tony hasn't been what everyone thought it would be. I mean, it seems like he's done it pretty comfortable with Mbemba, and I just respect him as a player. I think that he does the job, and he's kind of clinical. So that's why he's my 10.
Yeah, I didn't have him as a striker, but I mean, he does kind of play. He does kind of play up top with Mbeumo now. So I think
I couldn't put him in the top 10
he's a good player,
for me. He is good. I respect his game, but I couldn't put him in the top 10. But I have Liam Delap at my 10. He does play for Ipswich, so there's going to be that. But I do think I've talked about him enough. And I just want to see him develop a little more in the Premier League, get his minutes that he kind of wanted and deserved. He could have stayed with City and just taken the backup Holland minutes, and we probably would have been better off for it, but he decided to go off and do what he can at Ipswich. And I think they have a pretty good coach and team built around, not around him, but just built so that they can actually get the best out of him.
Yeah, young, talented. I'm curious to see the rest of your list, and I'm hoping that Grant doesn't have him in his list.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, he did score a fucking screamer pretty early on there. I forgot who they were playing, but I mean, that was pretty nasty. So
the talent's there.
We'll
it's going to be. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what he's able to do with Ipswich, just because they're going to have chances, but I don't know how many.
I just think, I don't know, as he gets technically better, he's just going to go up so much quicker as a player because he's already there physically. He's so fast and strong, and for such a young guy, he doesn't need to add really anything in that sense. In my mind, it's mainly more mental and technical, and we've seen that he already has some technical ability to him. So if they develop as a team, or if he just develops on his own and gets a move, I think he'll be really good in the Premier League. It just seems like his attributes suit the league.
So we're at number 9. I have the Darwinator. Darwin's been a very how can we say, polarizing as a player, right? In terms of opinion. He got those Holland comparisons, which was just really unfair to him. Just because he's tall and has long hair, he gets compared to Holland, goes for a lot of money. Probably went a year or two early in terms of making his bigger move. I think another year or two, Benfica would have helped him out a bit. But I think we see the flashes of talent in him, and yes, he's very wasteful in front of goal. There's definitely a player in there. And again, it's hard to separate the price tag from the player, but he's a young player and he's still got lots of room to grow. He still had decent output last year, so I only think that improves. I know he hasn't gotten too much game time to start the year, but yeah, maybe a team competing for a title potentially isn't the best place to be nurtured as a talent, if you will. So I don't know if it's at Liverpool in the future per se, but I definitely think there's a lot of room for improvement with him as well, and I do think he'll come good.
I
Yeah.
don't see him. If he's going to move out of Liverpool, I don't think it's in the Prem.
Yeah, no.
So if he doesn't prove it at Liverpool, then I don't think he's ever going
I
to
just don't
prove
think
it in
he
the
gets
Premier League.
the nurturing. You know what I mean? He won't. He'll be a shorter leash there, right?
I mean, now he should.
Right. No, 100%. It's not the club's fault, but he needs to play in order to develop, especially as a striker, to be able to just take your chances and get these chances. So
I think they're still not sure if he's a striker.
100%. Yeah, they're having issues. I don't know if it's again. I don't know if it's going to end up being at Liverpool, but I do think he comes good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have him at 9 too for similar reasons. I mean, look, he had 30 plus goal involvements last year. Like, he technically could do the job. I mean, the price tag is a reflection of what people thought he was in terms of talent, and the talent's there, and he's rapid, but he just has. I don't know. He just can't. I want to say it's just like being South American. He just kind of has that like weird, like, just mistake in him, and it hasn't truly seen the true potential come out of him. And I want to say that he's a winger as well, like not necessarily a crossing, put the ball in the box winger, but a direct. I genuinely think that this year we're going to see him come off the left whenever Diaz either slows down or whenever they have the congestion fills in there. That eventually he'll come off the left and be almost like a shadow striker of sorts to fill in and try to get goals. Because that's where he's best, is when he's using his pace and he's getting in behind. He was the reason that Chris Wood was my honorable mention. Because if I see him as a winger, I had Wood instead.
Well, that's why I have Wood at my 9. That guy is not a striker. And I don't need to talk about Wood that much. It's Chris Wood.
Yeah.
And you guys you made great points.
Oh, I didn't. Don't attach good points to talk about.
Dylan made a great point.
I don't want that on any sort of record. Number 8, Jean-Philippe Mateta. Had to make the list just for that ridiculous end of the season. Just could not stop scoring. It is the Olympics, but he did also do well at the Olympics. And I think a team, Palace, have had a slow start, but the way they've been playing ever since Glasner came in, I think it's just all about creating chances, and he's putting them away. So, I mean, he can very well continue for me. I really liked his season, and he's kind of sick. So, he's at 8.
I don't have him in my list. And
Tragedy.
Because they literally, in my opinion, they brought in another striker to take that role.
Sure.
And
they brought in Nketiah. No, not another striker. They brought in Nketiah to take that role. Like, how good can you fucking possibly be?
Yeah, I think Nketiah is going to be decent for him. I think that
he'll
he
be
could.
okay. But like that's my.
Respect.
I guess
that's
not
that big of a jump
point.
up for like the Teta is not that good in my opinion.
Yeah, well, he had a great year last year, and I just had to bring him up. So he's at 8.
Yeah,
where did you leave off?
That's
we'll
fair.
see who you left off.
My 8 is Cunha. I know that
he's not on my list
because I genuinely believe that he's the only thing in Wolves that scares me on a game-to-game basis. I think that he deserves a shout for Brazil and playing up top for them. He genuinely is the most technical player that Wolves have in terms of the forward or the strikers that they have, and I think that he's been super, super good since being kind of deemed as a flop from Spain, right? So I think that if he was the one player that I thought was going to get a move out of Wolves, like I thought he was going to get another move to maybe a mid-table Prem team, or I honestly thought he was going to go to United at a certain point before they got Xerxes. And I think he's class. He works really, really hard off the ball, which is like a trait that you normally don't see in Prem strikers necessarily. Not with the ones that not of his skill. So that's why I have him at 8.
No, he's good. He's good.
Yeah, I don't have anything wrong with that. I have John Duran at 8. I would have him higher. I think he's really good. Recently, the reports are coming out that Villa had like 40 clubs after him
I
this
think it was
summer.
40 offers and 30 of them came from us.
Is that
No, we for sure were in on him. But
okay? I know
40
that,
offers
but like
or something like that.
I forgot
okay.
John Duran.
There was heavy
Ridiculous
interest.
amount of
There was
interest in
heavy
him
interest,
though, and he's on the bench right now, and he's still producing better numbers than the majority of the starters in the league. Yeah, that's all
That
I got.
sucks. I knew I forgot somebody, and that was
I
who
have
it
him
was.
at 7. I have
That's who I
John Duran at 7. We were linked to him very early. It could have even been in January, but for sure early on in the summer. And a lot of our fans kind of complained about that. We need to go for Osimhen. We need an established name. And I think he's proved why so many teams were interested in him. He's gotten a little bit more playing time. Obviously, last year, Ollie Watkins was just unplayable. But you just see the pure ability in him, just like the ball striking, the movement, that header he scored, just like all around center forward game looks very good at his age. I feel like there's lots of room to grow, but I feel like the striker conversation, I keep saying it, they have lots of room to grow. There's lots of potential, but there's not many finished products. So it is a bit hard to project, especially with Duran not getting too much playing time. But I think he can absolutely get a move. I think they might have doubled their money. I think they wanted like 45, 50 for him. I think they'll get a lot more.
I don't think he's leaving anymore.
I was gonna say, I wonder if after this
We'll
season they let Watkins walk instead because he's a higher price
Emery
tag.
just said, I'm pretty sure that he wants him to stay and that he thinks he could be one of the best strikers in the world. And
He fits his style.
now that Duran wants to stay too. Like there's no bad blood over not
He's got
getting
the
that
number
move.
9, right?
Look, I could totally see a world where he becomes the guy who starts every game for them next season, and Watkins goes to an Arsenal. What I mean, realistically, if Watkins was to go because he's English, right? Like he's gonna get you 80, 90. And you have a guy that's probably at the very bottom could be the same level as Watkins, based off of what he's done so far. I know that's projecting pretty highly. But
I think they're a bit different in just game though. But impact wise,
Yeah, just in terms of
agree
value
with
too.
that. Yeah.
7. I have Solanke at 7. I don't have anything wrong with Solanke. I just, if we're basing him compared to the guys that I have ranked higher than him, I just have him in a tier below. I think that he's had one really, really good season, and he's a very cool player. Like I think the anime stuff that he does is really cool. I just don't know if he's technically gifted enough to crack my top 5. But he could have a good season here at Spurs, and he could prove his worth to me, and I could totally see him jumping in.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said about Solanke, but I have Højlund at my 7. I probably would have him higher if he played any minutes this season. That's not his fault, he's hurt. But I kind of wanted to see his progression from last season going into this season. So until we can see that, I don't think I can put him higher on the list, but I do think he's super talented. Like I was telling guys before the video, I think outside like the top 2 strikers, everyone else is a major drop off. So I think Højlund is still young and learning. I think he's probably one of the next guys up, and he can break into that top tier.
Yeah. Dylan, you got anything else to really say about Højlund before we?
I have him higher in my list, so I'll speak on him
We'll get there.
further
Sweet. Speaking of someone we've already talked about, I have João Pedro at 6. You guys threw him in on the 10s. I just threw him in as a striker. Kind of plays that second striker role he's been doing with Danny Welbeck so far. But yeah, he came in from Watford last year and immediately just started playing and producing. And he's hit the ground running again. So he's kind of already like, it's not a fluke. Like, I'm here. Yeah, and he just looks good. I know we already talked about him enough. So sick.
Yeah. My 6, I have Diego Jota. I think the impact that he has on Liverpool as a whole is understated, because since he's been starting this season, they've looked really sound, and he's just kind of a clinical finisher. The question is always health with him. Whenever FIFA or EA FC comes around, he always gets hurt. So the question is how long can he play? Because they're genuinely a better side when he's in it. Technically really sound, and especially at his height, like you wouldn't expect him to be a good striker necessarily, or at least not as clinical as he is. But I think if you were to ask any team, like if that needed a striker right now, like outside of City, really, he probably starts.
Totally forgot him. Yeah.
And
Your list
Jota.
is no longer valid.
Yeah, that's my bad. Yeah, no, he's just bags. Like, it's just very
You
simple.
had
Like,
Darwin in your list,
bro,
but you forgot the
I
guy that he
I
holds
guess
a
I didn't
bench
think
to.
of him as like a striker. You know what I mean? But I mean, he does play up top. Like,
There's
he
a
does.
couple of the guys in this list that could go in a different
I have
tier.
João Pedro on my list, so like, yeah,
I had
if he's on the
Cunha,
list,
so
Jota could be on. Yeah, I just fucked that up. Yeah, I forgot he was there.
that's fair.
Yeah.
He doesn't play that much. That's why he's 6 for me. Like if he played 40,
but he's
50 games
quality.
a season, you probably would remember him being that good, right? Like, but that's the thing, is this season he could play 40 games and he'll probably bag like 25 goals, and we'll be like, holy shit, like he's that dude.
Yeah, a lot of competitions as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So who do you have
totally
at 6, Mila?
I have Solanke at 6. Basically, all the reasons that you said. Had a good season at Bournemouth. Got this move to Tottenham. We talked about it on our Tottenham video, pre-North London derby.
Oh yeah, that'll be out.
I know. But we need to see more. I do think there's a lot of nerves when it comes to him, and I do think he's probably one of the better strikers in the league, but we have to see it, and he needs to be able to convert for Tottenham. Like, then again, we talked about the Tottenham tax, but can't blame that if you're going to be a big move signing for them. So,
and for Spurs, it's not a lack of chances either. That's like their whole system is based around creating as many chances as possible, so it's going to be there. Or he's going to have more chances than he did at Bournemouth.
Likely.
Yeah, but the defense will be different, obviously.
It's true.
I guess they'll be more set up to be prepared for a striker like him. So I guess this is just going to prove if he's like that or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have him at 5. I think he had before last season, bit of a stigma about him in terms of not being able to really score, like the striker who doesn't score goals. He put that to sleep. He was bagging for Bournemouth. Again, a team absolutely came on by the end of the year, but slow start. And again, not a team where you're guaranteed to score, nearly 20 goals. So great year last year, gets the move. We kind of beat a dead horse, kind of talking about Solanke at this point. But, he's definitely got to prove it. But I think out of last year alone, I'll give him number 5.
My 5 is Nicholas Jackson. Yeah, I think that he deserves a top 5 spot for right now, but I think that also describes the strikers in the Prem for me.
James gone.
And there's 4 world-class guys as well.
The games, so yeah, a bit gone. He is super talented, super wasteful. It shows you every game, like at least one play where it's like, I didn't know you could do that. It feels like he's got bricks for brains, but he pulls out something really special every game, at least once. And so that's exciting, I guess. The other issue is Chelsea have been looking for a replacement now, or at least a guy to compete with him, and they haven't done it yet. So
Diego Costa left.
And so he's gonna play every game pretty much, unless they go with like an Nkunku, at the striker position. Yeah, or something like that. But realistically, he's their best option there, and he's produced at a high enough rate for me to put him in the top 5.
Salute.
I also have Jackson in my 5,
I got him at
but
4.
I think you praised him. You probably praised him more than I was going to.
Wait
My
till it's my
placement
turn.
is a hit on the rest of the strikers in the league. I don't think they're quality enough. If you could look at Nico Jackson and be like, okay, yeah, majority of the clubs in the Premier League would want that guy to be their main striker week in, week out, then it'd be like, okay. Like, that's how I view most of the top 10 strikers, is like they should be able to do that. That's why I think they're mostly shit, because a majority of them in my top 10 probably wouldn't even get that move to some of the lower teams. Yeah, that's all. That's all I got.
So I have him at number 4.
I was gonna say, spew your Jackson hype ramble here.
Yeah. I mean, I've been pushing this propaganda on them for a very long time now, but like, as someone who watches them every week, like, you can't not see it. And the crazy thing is, for me, I don't even know if he's a striker still. His best position might be on the left. I think obviously his wastefulness is truly tough to watch. It's excruciating. But he ended up with 14 goals in the league, and for me too, just his all-around play is just out of this world. We went from just guys up top who didn't really understand that part of the game, or just didn't they weren't proficient there. Not knowing where space is behind you. And mind you, he of course has a mistake in him, but he always seems to be progressing in his head. He's saying, how can we get to goals? He's coming out, linking up these back heels that he pulls out. Dylan, I know you're kind of referring to that. Like, just first time, bang, he's not even looking. It's right on a plate. He's got a good chemistry with Palmer. I think Madueke's obviously got great chemistry with Palmer as well. The more they play together, they're just going to get this rapport. And this system is all based upon being able to work in tight areas. And once these guys keep playing together, project go boom. So Jackson will be, hopefully Holland leaves the league, and Jackson will be at the top of this list. 3 years time, I think the sky's the limit for
Yeah, it's just the question of will the bricks not be in his brain for him to do it? Like, will he develop that instead of kicking it into Rosette, just passing it to
bro,
a
his
teammate?
finishing at Villarreal, which was half of a season before we bought him, was very good in terms of conversion rate. And then obviously you guys watched it, not great. So 21-year-old striker who comes in for 35 million, I can live with that, seeing everything else in his game. You know what I mean? He still gets put in these flop conversations. It's absurd. I don't get that one. Like, people say Caicedo, like, that makes sense. Big price tag, sure. Jackson, like, for what we paid for him and the
Who's
output
calling
we've
him a
gotten from him,
flop?
I scroll Twitter too much. I see it.
I think
People just in general, there's this stigma about Jackson because he's just not a good player. It's absurd.
I'm with that a little bit.
His lows are really low,
Oh,
and
they're
his
pretty
highs
funny, yeah.
are really high. Like, that's kind of the player. He's so volatile.
No, for sure.
And the worst part is, and this is kind of why I had him at 5 and not any higher, is like, on any given day, you get all of it.
Yeah.
And that, like, the only way he moves up is by getting, obviously, the more consistent portions of his game to be better instead of the volatility. But I can see it
Sounds like how I used to talk about Jesus.
No.
It could be.
No chance.
Except he doesn't
You
have
weren't
the
even
injuries.
watching the sport when I was talking about Jesus like this.
Here's the deal, though. This guy's different. I think with Jackson, I lost my train of thought. No, what are you gonna do?
It's all good.
We'll talk about him more one.
We 100%.
I'm sure we'll
he's
talk
gonna
about him
be
again.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah. My God.
My 4 is Højlund. He is the only player that I listed that are like outside the top 3, and I think we all have probably similar top 3s.
Probably the exact same top 3.
No,
maybe not.
I promise you, it's not. It just won't be.
But
all right,
he's the only one that has pure striker number 9 Premier League like instincts and feel to me, outside of Højlund and maybe Watkins. Like, he's built to be a Prem striker, 6'3". I mean, he was 20 last year, and he had 10 goals in the Prem. Like, there's not a lot of strikers that have come into the league and done that, and especially with the magnitude and the magnifying glass that was on him because of the price tag in United. And he converted on, I think it was like 26% of his shots. So he wasn't getting the ball, which that doesn't necessarily mean that he would have converted if he had 80 shots. But I think it shows that he puts himself in the position to be a clinical striker. and the guys below him at older, either they're older or they've had more chances in better teams or whatnot, but they didn't convert the same rate. And I think that the promise of him to be in this conversation is why I have him at 4. And I think that if he had played in these games earlier in the season, I've said this in a couple videos now, that United would probably be set up in a better spot, because I think that the chances would have been there for him. And I think this partially just comes down to system. And if he was like on a Chelsea, for example, I think that he would have had, like last year, if he was healthy and was on a Chelsea team, he could have had 25 goals.
And not if he wore number 9.
Yeah, if he were literally any other number.
Yeah.
Your
So that's what I
center
went for.
back's the number 9.
Or we should do that. Also, real quick, I did remember you said Jackson just all in one game. When we played Everton last year, got an assist with Palmer when he had linked up Meg Branthwaite, and then took down a cross from Cucurella first time, hits it, goal, and then tried to fight Palmer for a penalty in the second half. So,
Yes. Counterpoint.
yeah, everything. What was that?
Nothing against poopy Everton counts.
Can we also?
Hey, no, Palmer Meg Branthwaite. He's worth 80 million apparently.
That his shit dropped.
I wish, and I might just do
It'll be
it for shits
25.
and giggles,
Yeah.
but edit in this part where he just goes and says his name, because I think that summarizes how I feel about him as a player.
Talking about
Nicholas Jackson.
right, how can you not love him? You have,
I
as
do like
as
him.
a fan. He's a super likable guy. It's like I would love for this guy to be successful. Like he scores 1 goal after we lose to City and posts on his story, "Shut your ass up, Mikel." We're like, this guy's nuts, bro. Like I'm
He's
a
a
fan.
shithouser. I like it. I like his
Yeah,
edge.
love it.
All right, Mila, 4.
Ollie Watkins.
Okay, we have different top 3s.
Yeah, I forgot
Yeah.
Mila hasn't seen
Yes.
4 yet. Yeah,
With Watkins, I think his skill set is overall perfect for the league. He's quick, he's fast, and he's around, I think he's like 6 foot, around 6 foot. He wins those aerial duels. He can finish, he can dribble decently, he's not a bad passer. So I think he's just pretty much good to average on everything, which is a lot to say when I've been shitting on the rest of the fucking strikers in this list. So I really hold that highly in this list. Also, you can't look at what he did last season for Villa, not one of the top 6 teams, for Villa, and he was in the conversation for top goal scorer and top assist man. Like,
yeah, he was
that's
second
ridiculous.
in
You
all
have-
GA.
Yeah, you don't do that without, like, as a striker too. You shouldn't be doing that. So that's why I put him at 4. I do think I think he's a step behind the rest of the Villa team right now. So once he gets to that speed and they're on the same level, I think they'll click more, and he'll click with Rodgers specifically, and we'll see a good link up going there.
Yeah, I've got Watkins at 3, like you said, just based off last year alone. You said it perfectly. He has to be up here high on this list. The only concern, I know we kind of touched on it, like Duran's coming on really strong to start the year. Morgan Rogers has looked undroppable. Yeah, I didn't put him on this list either. Jeez. It's very possible that he
Rogers?
ends up Morgan Rogers. Yeah, I don't have him on my list.
Why
He was
would
in
be
my
on your
10s.
or your
I think I just
nines
forgot because I
list?
think I forgot him on the other list too.
okay, I see.
He's good. Just not on my list. Yeah. So that's the only real fear is like Duran just comes on strong and takes a big step. But yeah, off last year alone, he's got to be up here.
Yeah, he's my 3 as well. The start of the season has left a sour taste in the mouth of all of us, I think. And if we were starting this list at the very start of the season, I think he could arguably be a 2. Look,
Nah.
every
There's an
year
argument.
every year in the Prem, he's been a 10+ goal guy. Last season, you guys said the stats for him. He's just he's kind of one of those built for the Premier League. But he's 3 just because of the start of the season. I don't need to elaborate more on him. He had a good World Cup as a sub, and maybe that's what's going to happen to him this season with Duran.
Duran Hive stand up.
My 3 is Jota.
Very fair.
I've talked about it a couple times since we started recording. I didn't realize how young he was. So, like I said, again, 27 years old. He's kind of just hitting his prime then right now. So, like Dylan was saying, injuries. But if he's going to hit his prime, he's looking like he's playing some of his best football, and he's holding up Liverpool. He's keeping Darwin on the fucking bench. Like, I don't. If he stays fit, I don't see why he's not the third best striker in the league. Unless Watkins or maybe one of these other guys, Jackson, Hoyland, any of those guys have that breakout season that they're supposed to have, but that we all want them to have. I can't put anyone over him though, just because he has the Prem experience already. He's been in the league for fucking so long, it feels like. So I don't know. That's the one thing he has over a lot of these guys in this list is he's been here. I don't think the rest of my list he's been here the longest on my list.
8 years.
Out of all these guys. Yeah.
Yeah,
I had
a
he's
fucking
been around.
stinker, bro. Yeah.
Wood is the other guy that I don't even know how to gauge that. But he's experienced and young. And everything he offers to this team, like you were saying, he's so impactful. So I can't put him any lower. But I also can't put him higher than 3.
Yeah, had a stinker. He's quality.
It's just one of those guys that you forgot about. He's the reason that Diaz wasn't in my wingers list. It's because I genuinely believe that his impact on Liverpool as a whole is much higher than pretty much everyone other than Salah. From the forward group, sorry, they still have other good players, but yeah, that three's a good shout. Based off of the start of this season, you could definitely make the case that he should be in 3.
Yeah, I think this is where we're all probably going to be in unison. I have Isak at 2, and then we have Holland at 1. Right?
Yeah.
I think I don't have too much to say on Isak. Actually, I think you guys can kind of take the wing a little bit there, but I just think with Isak, very similar player in terms of the way they like to play this position as Jackson for me. He's just clinical. He is clinical. Like a one-on-one with the keeper, I don't blink. I don't think twice. It's going in. Very good finisher, able to get wide. And, I remember he was even playing out wide when Callum Wilson would play up top. Also, shout out Callum Wilson. But yeah, I think he's just a way more polished version of Jackson. And yeah, I got him too. And then obviously Holland.
Yeah, I'll touch on Isak as well. 25 goals in a bad Newcastle team. He was the only reason they weren't mid-table really last season. He kind of kept them afloat. He's been super versatile, being able to play out on the wing if it's called on him, and he hasn't been super angry about going on the wing and just showing up and doing his job. Just puts on his boots and goes and scores goals. Super clinical. I wish that he wasn't at Newcastle. I wish he was at a true Big 6 team. I just wish that he was. I don't know why Arsenal didn't make the signing when they could have.
Thank God they didn't.
Yeah, thank God they didn't, because that is the only real way that they could have been title contenders.
He came over for 60 million. Nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy. 25 goal. He had 25 goals last season. What is
good.
that? What does that get you now? In this right.
I mean, again, if we don't have a literal outlier of a player, he's the best striker in the league at 24, 25. Holland is people kind of throw generational around. You can't argue against it. You just can't. Right? I know there's comments, and I know, Mila, I'm sure you'll have a lot to say as well. League 2 player, I get it. I see what you're saying, but you cannot deny this man. You just see all those graphics. There's 30 of them where it's oh, look how many games it took all these people to, and he's halving them. It's absurd.
Dude, he's making these record holders in the Premier
absurd.
League who bums. It's
unreal.
It's gross. Some of my players growing up too, he's freaking destroying their records. It's not even close.
Yeah,
it's a glitch. How did that end up happening?
He's 24. I'm just gonna list off his stats since 2019. 16 goals, and he had 41 and 10, 29 and 7, 52 and 9, 38 and 6 last year, and he was hurt. And then now he already has, right? Yeah, and he already has 7 so far in 3 games.
And there's definitely a case that he could have had a Ballon d'Or as well.
He got robbed of it.
And
Who won it?
regardless of that, and I think that's a whole
Messi.
other conversation that we can save later. Maybe we make a whole other fucking ramble video. But I think if Argentina doesn't win that World Cup, he for sure wins the Ballon d'Or.
I
Right?
think that's where that's one of the things I wanted to talk about with these two is they get shit on a lot for their international team performances.
What are they
Their teams
supposed to
suck.
do?
Exactly. No, Dylan's face is like, what are you
talking
talking
about
about? But I agree,
Norway and
Dylan.
Sweden as
I'm
well?
I'm, I'm going on the same thing
We've
with
had
you.
this conversation enough
Yeah.
times for it to matter.
Both their teams fucking suck.
Are we talking about Isak?
Both of
Isak
them.
and Holland. Yeah,
That
both
team's
of them.
kind of looking a little crazy now. But
What?
is it
The
Sweden?
team do they do anything?
I don't
They're
know, but
not on his
Gyökeres
level.
and
They're
Isak,
not on his level. I don't.
for sure,
Yeah,
they're not.
Gyökeres and Isak, but that's two strikers. That's like
Listen,
who's
they're not
giving them
helping
the
each other
ball?
score the goals. They're just
Sure,
two guys that
sure.
can score the goals.
And even then, that's more of a new development. They've been
Exactly.
pretty shit.
It's just the lack of talent as a team. There's obviously going to be some wonder kids that are coming out of both those countries. They're not like nobody countries, but like they can't do what they do at their clubs at international level, and I think that brings them down a bit. So that's when Holland doesn't win that Ballon d'Or. He has really no international things to go off of. All those tournaments, he's sitting at home. Like, they're not participating. So they get shit on for that. That was one of the things I want to talk about with the two of them. The second thing that I think for why they're at the top of my list is that they're fucking units. Both of them stand at like 6'5", and they're not clunky 6'5" players. They're very technical, very fast, like strong too. Like, they can really do what you want your striker to do, and they're converting way better than the rest of this top 10 list. So I think when you're looking at strikers, this is the two of them are what you want, and those were the easy ones to put in my list because they're the actual fucking strikers in our league. We don't have really many, and then I don't know. I think you guys really said it. We can't really put Isak over Holland. Holland's just too good.
Holland's a glitch. Like, I don't know. I can't really find another way to put it. He's such a odd player in terms of like how.
Mm-hmm.
But Dylan was listing off the stats. It's just like we thought he had a bad year last year. He like easily won the Golden Boot.
He did have a bad year, but
that's what I'm saying.
Like, that's
easily won the
what
Golden Boot.
The issue is how
expectations.
It's like
he set the
expectations for him is no. I don't think he did. I think he's gonna blow it.
For sure, but like
it's gonna continue to get better. Oh, of
it's
course,
because he set such a quality standard. And I think you bring up a good point in the international thing because I just thought about it now. Like, Vinny's a front runner for the Ballon d'Or, right? Like first, second, third. He's going to probably be on the podium. He doesn't do anything for Brazil, so it's almost like the conversation. It's like a nitpick where it's like we got to find something because Vinny, great player, he's awful for Brazil. So interesting that doesn't get brought up for him.
I guess that's a weird one to me. Just straying off a bit, like Brazil are supposed to be good. You look at their team on paper; they should be okay. And they're terrible. So in defense of him, when he does play a lot of the time, he looks like one of Brazil's better players, but the team is so bad that like he doesn't even look good when he is playing good.
Yeah, side note, we'll have to do an episode on them because they are tactically set up one of the strangest teams internationally, and they never get their manager right. They just choose not to get a good manager that's a lot of personality. And if you're not going to have a personality coaching them, that's just ultimately what overruns that team. And that's why they're running an 18-year-old as striker. They're a joke.
Yeah, they need to bring in big fucking Jose Mourinho to come to the fucking United States of America. That would be cinema. But you're saying we should do a Brazil best 11?
Not even best 11. I just think we should have a further conversation on them in another episode.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to get this point in on Holland. I think that people want to nitpick him because when he first came into the league, it was a question of like, well, he was never healthy. And can he do it in the Prem? The Prem's the hardest league in the world. Can he do it here? And he's genuinely made this league look like a farmer's league. And the crazy part is like City does in general, but like he's so good that he's broken all of these records and he makes the league look entirely like crap because nobody else on this list comes close. It's just like the KDB thing for me where like There's two, and it's a large margin for one. And look, he's just phenomenal. He's a machine. I can't even. I don't understand it because out of all the other things, like the only player that he reminds me of is Zlatan, and Zlatan was more technical, but he was less clinical. How could you be less clinical than Zlatan?
Dude, and the thing with like Zlatan is he's got Zlatan beat for pace by like for days. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He's
like
wicked. He's stupid fast.
A physical marvel. A physical marvel.
And I think it should give you some optimism on Højlund, Dylan, and you gotta let me finish this sentence before it sounds crazy. Haaland was injured early on in his career. A giant striker growing into his body, getting these muscle injuries, picking up minor injuries.
Is Højlund still growing though?
I mean, he's like 20. He had acne scars. Young guy.
I watched a video today on like why Haaland is like can still grow and might still grow.
He's gonna be 6'10".
He's just got a sicko diet. So, but like what you were saying, the early injuries in the career is why I'm bringing this up is because he was growing at a ridiculous rate. He was, I think,
I remember you
6
telling me
foot,
about it when he signed.
but like that massive jump up to being this tank of a human, that was difficult, and I think so. To your point, I don't know if it's Højlund's just injury prone type of thing, or if it's like I'm not used to this.
I said
framing.
It should give him optimism.
I know. I'm just trying to clarify that.
Look, trying to compare. That's the issue is everyone tries to compare the two. They're different players.
Yeah.
Nobody is Haaland. Nobody is Haaland.
They both have blonde hair and left-footed.
What I will say about Højlund is he's also played just a ludicrous amount of games for someone at his age, and it also like just because Denmark is not. They've been asking for a striker for so long that he's been kind of forced into that role, which kind of sucks. He didn't have a good Euros, but like
yeah.
Denmark didn't, outside of really Eriksson, didn't have a good Euros, and like that's the issue is like all these kids are getting forced into these crazy roles to start their careers, and Højlund's just a product of all the congestion with all the fixtures and stuff. And I think the injuries just happen. Like they're all freak muscle ones. I just want to assume that it's kind of similar to what you're saying about the Haaland thing. I think that he probably was 5'10" when he was like 16, and then he grew up, grew into his body at 6'3". Like it's a massive jump, and to be that big as a footballer is also just difficult. You have to learn to be that size. The one thing I will say about Haaland is he never really had that for me, where it looked like he was a gazelle. Or like you
don't realize this is why he fucking can't header the ball for his life. It's because he was not a fucking big boy that was headering the ball every day. Yeah, that
even when he was that size,
in the terms of like physical movement is what I think you're talking about.
Yeah, like when you see a baby horse and they're like all spraddled out, like Højlund still has that to him. But Haaland never had that, and like currently he doesn't have that. He's just
he's comfortable in his frame,
so controlled in his frame.
Yeah,
he's got to be 6'5", 6'6".
He's like a creative.
I think he's 6'4" and still at the moment, which is ridiculous.
Like a 6'5" guy with 99 pace.
In FIFA, they'd always let you regen retired players. He's the regen version of Zlatan. Because the regen version of Zlatan in career mode would always come out like that, where he just bagged like 90 goals as like a 14-year-old.
Dude, the Benzema regen, crazy. It would come out as like 95 rated, free agent every time. Need it.
It's
pure profit.
It's pure profit.
We should do an economics video.
No. God, no.
I will not be in that video.
Yeah, you can do that one solo.
Oh.
All right. Well, Grant, you want to run us through your top 10?
Nah.
Ooh.
Nah. At 10, I have Højlund. At 9, I have Darwin. I have Mateta at 8. John Duran at 7. João Pedro at 6. Solanke at 5. Nicolas Jackson at 4. Ollie Watkins at 3. Isak at 2. Haaland at 1.
My top 10 strikers. Honorable mention, Chris Wood. I'm going to keep throwing it in there. 10, Wissa. 9, Darwin Nunes. 8, Cunha. 7, Solanke. 6, Jota. 5, Nicholas Jackson. 4, Hoyland. 3, Watkins. 2, Isak. And 1, Holland.
All right, top 10. 10. That's not Delap. Liam Delap at 10. Wood at 9. Duran at 8. Hoyland at 7. Solanke at 6. Jackson at 5. Ollie Watkins at 4. Jota at 3. Isak at 2. And the meat slab at number 1.
Lars.
Yeah. That we made it
Nice.
through our entire tier list of the Premier League from back to front without goalkeepers, because fuck goalkeepers.
No goalies. Boo.
They all kind
Wait,
of suck.
we
don't
still
they?
need to do our longest throw-in tier list.
Oh, right. Good point. Sorry. That'll be the first episode I get back, is the longest throw-in tier list.
Now we need a top 10 super subs list.
Ooh. That one, Garnacho.
Trossard, probably.
Oh, fuck him.
I
Stupid
agree,
ice.
but he's just
John
VTech
Durant.
Jota.
Oh,
yeah.
Whatever.
You guys keep
Good list.
disrespecting my Duran.
Alfie Gilchrist at 4 for me.
Oh god.
Jesus.
Right.
But yeah, that'll do with episode 8 of Clash of Clubs. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Two words for him. Different gravy. Glorious goal! Wreathed in red. We're really seeing the most extraordinary finish here. On this day of days, has he delivered? Just magnificent! Potentially life-changing. That's football. Minute you let it under your skin, then you begin to make it better.